How you doing? So these are the top 10 best buff champions in 2021. So I just want to give my honorable mentions before I give you my top 10 best champions of 2021. I would just want to clarify these are the champions themselves, how good they are in 2021, the rankings. So if I want to give an honorable mention of Mr. Fantastic. If I was going to say top 10 most important champions of 2021, he would easily make it in the top 10, maybe even top 5, because of his free fight abilities. I think not many people know how to use his free fight ability. When it comes to his free fight ability, anybody in his team can use his free fight ability, and it's very useful in the right scenario. So, but I'm not including that. It's just the champion themselves, how good they are, where do they rank as far as the champions this year, as far as buff champions. So that's why Mr. Fantastic didn't make it to the list. Another honorable mention I want to say is going to be War Machine. Another champion I would say that would have made it in the top 10 easily if we include if the title was top 10 most important champion uh, of 2021 that got a buff. Because of his free fight ability, he can share it with any champions that are tech. So the only downside of this, it's only tech. I do think it's better than what do you call that, Mr. Fantastic's free fight abilities, but the downside of his this is it's only for tech, and there's 6 different classes. So keep that in mind. If this was on his base kit alone, when it comes to his free fire abilities, the cleanse charges, the energy resistance, extra attack rating, increased debuff duration based on the armor. If that was on his base kit, when it comes to War Machine, I think he's better than Guardian or Hulkbuster because he's like a hybrid of both of them. But in the case, it's not the case, and it's not very consistent. Like, you can't always get those free fights because he only starts at 2 to begin with, and then he has to win a fight to gain more charges as well. So I don't want to include that. So that's why he didn't make it in the list when it comes to the top 10 best buff champions of 2021. So now let's go with the top 10 best champions of 2021. I haven't really played much with Moman, but I think it'd be bias on my part not to put him in the top 10. That's why he's number 10 on the list. I think he's just reading his buff abilities. I know his buff is really good. He can shrug off debuffs. He can, what else? He gains unstoppable. His damage is pretty decent, you know not the easiest champion to play with, but it's not the most difficult champion to play with either. I think his buff is really good. That's why he makes it in the top 10 on the best buff of 2021. When it comes to number 9, I do think this guy's buff is underrated. Definitely one of the best buff of 2021. He has ability to regenerate. He also has ability to power drain, I believe. So he can have your opponent like in almost like 0 bar of power the entire time. So I definitely think his buff is underrated. So let's go with number 8. Number 8 on the list is going to be Bishop. Another underrated buff. I definitely think he's one of the best buffs of 2021. I do think with synergies, this champion can be really good. Um, but I'm not including synergies, so that's why if it was with synergies, I think he'll be higher on this list. But with synergies, I think he's definitely really really good. But in this case, I won't be including synergies. But since he's a mutant, I mentioned like mutants have the best synergies in the game. Even without synergies, I think he's underrated. Before he got buff, I think he was already underrated. I would say he's slightly better since he got buff, especially against mutant now. When it comes to his waking ability, that it's useful. It's not like like necessary, but I think it's definitely useful when it comes to his waking ability. It depends on how many bars of fire you start with on fight. He gains that extra ability. So I did mention that, I did say mutant, but I meant to say against skill champions. Against skill champions, he's great against skill champions that can shrug off debuffs. Any like skill champions also receive a passive stun lasting 1.5 seconds if the debuff purified was a stun. So this is against Kingpin, Moman, I think Agent Venom as well. So he's a great counter for those champions because he can like give them a passive stun when they shrug debuffs. So great against skill champions. Has a massive SP2. Uh, and he's really really good with synergies, but in this case I'm not including synergies. That's why he's only number 8 on this list. So number 7 on the list, when it comes to best buff of 2021, it's going to be Karnak. I can't wait to take this guy to rank 5. I think he's fun to play with. Probably the biggest downside to him is he does take a lot of practice, a lot of skill to learn. And I was debating who should be making the top 10 list. It was going to be Massacre, Venompo, or Karnak. I chose Karnak because he's more suicide mastery friendly. So incoming poison effects deal 65% less damage. That means he's constantly healing from willpower. If you're running Liquid Courage, and the two champions I mentioned, Massacre and Venompo, they don't do so well with suicide masteries. If I wasn't running Suicide Mastery, I would have probably preferred Massacre on the top 10 list. Maybe Benampool, but I'd probably Massacre. But since I do run Suicide Masteries, I like Karnak over those two other champions. So let's go with number 6 on the list. I do think this champion would be definitely much higher if I included the Odin Synergy. The Odin Synergy, this champion is just a beast. I was like, after 20 wins, arguably the best. After 20 wins, she's already the best cosmic champion in the game. After 30 wins, I think she's the best champion overall in the game. I was like in Act 6.1, where this is a 5-star, keep in mind, not a 6-star, 5-star. I won the last 4 fights, I won 100%. Each fight, I won with 100% health left. That's including the boss. Think about that. Not only that, I soloed 34 out of 35 fights with Angela on that quest. And not only that I did that, I finished with 100% health. I really think, with more skill, I could have soloed 35 straight fights with a 5-star Angela, because I've seen a 6-star rank 3 do it. But with more skill, as I mentioned, I could have soloed all 35 fights. But even as an average MCOC player, I was able to solo 34 out of 35 fights, and I finished with 100% health. That's insane how good she is. That's with Odin Synergy, but since we're not including Odin Synergy, I think she's still pretty good champion. She can heal. Obviously, running Suicide Mastery, she's going to heal a lot more. Definitely want to be running Suicide Masteries and Willpower with her. She hit pretty hard. Very easy to use. Has armor break. Probably one of her best quality is be able to shrug off damage over time. It's really really nice, because like if you're running like double edge, she's gonna shrug it off right away if you have like 4 buffs on you. And so I think she's definitely one of the best buffs in 2021. With Odin Synergy, she definitely be higher on this list. So she goes to number 6. And when it comes to number 5, I think there's pretty much no doubt about it. When it comes to top 5, it's like there's no question about which top 5 best buff of 2021, and it's number 5 in this list is Ultron. A lot of people think Ultron is the best buff of 2021 because he is bug. I'm willing to bet, if I had to guess, Ultron will likely be the if they did a poll when it comes to best buff of 2021, Ultron will probably win. If not, Diablo. Either it's going to be Ultron or Diablo, but I would say it's probably most likely Ultron because he is bug and he's hitting a lot harder than he's supposed to be in Abyss, especially in Abyss. But that's kind of a bit misleading in my opinion. But I think even without the bug, there's no doubt top 5 best buffs. Ultron is one of them. When I first thought about Ultron's buff, I was thinking it was like Red Magneto's level buff. Then I said, no, probably not that good. The only downside about when it comes to Ultron's buff is when it comes to his evade. It's really, really probably the most annoying thing that he has when it comes to his evade. Function evades every 7 seconds, evade all incoming attacks for 1.5 seconds. So sometimes when you're trying to parry, it evades when you don't want it to parry. So that could be annoying. If they had to change that to function evade every, like a Nick Fury Quake synergy where it only activates when you try to get hit, and then it has a 7-second cooldown. I think this would be Red Magneto level up, or even um, better. I would say he would like be second on the best buff of 2021 at least. If that was the case, even without the bug, but that's not the case. But then again, he's now immune to slow. He always had his immunities, double immunity, speed, lead, and poison. He has double regen, 50% and 25%, and he can do some serious damage now. He's a great champion against mutant. Let's see if it says that here. Against mutant, let's see. It doesn't say it, does it? Oh, I thought it would say that. It's weird. Thought it would say that. Yeah, but against mutant, instead of like bleeding mutant, he now can degen them, and nobody's immune to his degen when it comes to mutants. So it's really great that he's a great counter against mutant as well. So definitely top 5 best buff of 2021, no question about it. So when it comes to number 4 on this list, it's going to be Kingpin. Kingpin's buff is pretty good. There's no denying it. Definitely in the top 5 best buff of 2021. No question about it. Absolutely no bias on that. The only downfall I would say is base regeneration rate is set at 50%. Instead of the normal 100%. If that was base rate set at 100%, he would easily be number 2, even number 1 on this list. He would have so much regen. This guy has, even at 50%, it's pretty decent. Not the greatest, but decent. He can shrug up debuffs. What else? He has unstoppable. Definitely one of the best buff of 2021. I really wish it was like 100% on his base regeneration rate set instead of 50%, because especially if there's like certain like debuffs that you get that you can get, gain willpower, it kind of sucks because he's only regenerating 50% of it. And like I mentioned, he can like shrug up debuffs, which is nice. I mean, with Kingpin synergy, it's pretty much like 100% could shrug up debuffs. Also with Sinister, he can like power lock opponent. So very good buff. Definitely top 5, and there's no bias question about that. So let's go with number 4. Number 4 is number 3. It's Nebula. Nebula, she is definitely one of the best buff of 2021. She was already decent champion, but they just make her so much better now because of her SP3. So instead of holding block, you can go to SP3 and then fire SP2. It's really that much easier now. And plus, if you just want to continue to do her old playstyle, like hold block, it's not much easier because it's 0.65 seconds, before it was 0.9 seconds, so it took forever to gain those 20 shock charges. So now it's a little bit easier now. I mean, she always was able to shut down robots. That's why she's one of the best champions in the game, and she's now immune to shock. This is really great against shock nodes. Like, she's gonna cheese those nodes because not only she's immune to shock, she gains charges every time she gets shocked, so she can do so much damage in such a short amount of time. Her SP2 does insane damage. I mean, she could do like a 6-star rank. My first 6-star rank 3, she can do like against 250k opponents with one, like a 15 to 20 hit combo, and then an SP2. She's like, they're knocked out just like that. That's how much damage she can do. Also, she's when it comes to power drain, power lock, it's definitely underrated because she can keep opponents pretty much at 0 bar of power the entire fight. Her regeneration is great if you can tank SP3. I was able to beat Hyperion with 100% health, being able to tank 4 SP3s from Hyperion. That's how OP her regeneration is. So definitely underrated champion, one of the best, definitely no doubt top 5 best buff champions this year. So that's number what's that, 3 on the list. And when it comes to number 2, second best buff this year is going to be King Groot. King Groot, oh man, this guy was already decent when it comes to his regen. Now they just made him better by doubling his damage. They pretty much double his damage when it comes to his buff. And what else? Now, and also not only that, he's immune to power drain and power burn now. So this is great against tech champions because he has class advantage, and most tech champions have like power drain and power burn effects. So that's really great. Not only that, they pretty much double his damage, his SP2, because he wasn't that good against robots, because robots are immune to poison. But since so what they did is, going up against robots, which are like pretty much all tech, when it comes to robots, it not only has class advantage, obviously, instead of like, because they're immune to poison, he his SP2 is now triple the damage, so he can do like 100k damage even with a 5-star on his SP2. That's how good this buff is. It pretty much doubled his damage. Now he's immune to power drain and power burn as well. Definitely another underrated champion. I fought 6.2 6.2. I fought like 6 fights, and at the end of the 6 fights, I finished with 100% health. That's how much his regeneration is and how good his buff is. It's crazy. Against Void, he was able to shrug off his debuffs. Great counter against Void as well. And when it comes to the 5, there's no question about, you can mix them like however order you want as far as best buff. But when it comes to best buff for 2021, there's no question about it. I'm willing to bet if they do a poll best buff champions, like they go to Marble Truco's champion, best buff for 2021, either it's going to be Diablo or Ultron. And I would say the only reason why it would be Ultron is because of his bug right now, because he's bugged, because he's doing more damage than he's supposed to. If not, that's not the case, Diablo would win. I would, no question about it. And I think there's no question about which buff is 2021. It's not even close. It's Diablo. Diablo can auto fight entire Realm of Legends with a 6-star rank 3. And I've been comparing Diablo as far as the other champions this year in Realm of Legends, and full synergy, and some cases like 15% attack boost as well against Diablo with no synergy, no attack boost, and Diablo is still beating them when it comes to being able to beat Realm of Legends fights versus champions, against buff champions this year with full synergy, in some cases even 15% attack boost as well. So that's how OP he is. He was the one that was able to take down the champion boss for me, and I was struggling with that fight for the longest time, but Diablo made that fight look so easy. I mean, the guy is just a beast. And if you haven't, you've seen not just, I have so many solos from Diablo, whether it's from like 3-star, 4-star. Obviously I do have a 5-star I have a 5-star Diablo, but I have many solos with Diablo. Like I mentioned, 3-star or even a 4-star. So definitely best buff for 2021. And you probably just type Diablo gameplay on YouTube. You're gonna see a lot of solos with Diablo, soloing entire completion, soloing abyss fights with 100% health. That's how good that's how good his buff is. There's definitely no question. Best buff of 2021 is Diablo. So what do you guys think? And if you disagree, I'd like to know what your 10th best buff of 2021 is. And write down the comment section below. Thank you.